918 souls, a remote jungle, and a glass of flavor aid that sealed their fate. That fateful glass wasn't just a drink. It was the chilling culmination of one man's escalating paranoia and the absolute devotion of his followers. This is the story of Jonestown, a utopian dream that curdled into a nightmare of unparalleled horror. Before the cyanide, before the mass graves, there was Jim Jones, a charismatic, complex figure. He started in Indiana, preaching a blend of Christian socialism, racial equality, and community outreach. Early on, he truly seemed to care for the downtrodden. Jones built his people's temple on promises of a better world, free from the societal ills of racism and poverty. He attracted thousands, particularly those marginalized by mainstream America. His sermons were electrifying, his vision compelling. But beneath the surface of his benevolent facade, a darker truth began to emerge. Jones demanded absolute loyalty. Dissension was met with public humiliation, physical abuse, and psychological manipulation. The promised utopia started to feel more like a prison. He staged healings and miracles, fabricating illnesses and then curing them to cement his divine authority. His followers, desperate for hope and belonging, often overlooked these increasingly bizarre displays, clinging to the initial promise. As scrutiny grew in the United States, Jones began to fear exposure. Accusations of financial mismanagement, abuse, and even kidnapping mounted. He saw enemies everywhere, a paranoia he skillfully projected onto his congregation. His solution, a mass exodus. In 1977, Jones convinced over 1,000 followers to relocate to a remote agricultural commune he'd established in the jungles of Guyana. He called it Jonestown, a socialist paradise, a sanctuary from the outside world. Life in Jonestown was anything but paradise. Residents worked grueling hours, often from dawn until dusk, cultivating crops. Food was scarce, medical care inadequate. Jones, meanwhile, lived in relative luxury. His mental state deteriorated rapidly. He became addicted to various drugs, his speeches grew more erratic, and his grip on reality slipped further. He subjected his followers to white nights, mock suicide drills, conditioning them for the unthinkable. Families were separated, letters censored, and armed guards patrolled the perimeter. Leaving Jonestown was not an option. Defection was seen as the ultimate betrayal, punishable by severe means. By late 1978, worried relatives in the U.S. had managed to attract the attention of California Congressman Leo Ryan. He decided to lead a delegation to Jonestown, accompanied by journalists, to investigate claims of abuse and forced imprisonment. On November 17, 1978, Ryan and his group arrived. Initially, Jones put on a convincing show of normalcy, but some members, emboldened by Ryan's presence, secretly passed notes, pleading for help to leave. The next day, as Ryan's delegation prepared to depart with a small group of defectors, they were ambushed at the airstrip by armed temple members. Congressman Ryan, 3 journalists, and 1 defector were brutally murdered. Back at Jonestown, Jones knew his actions had sealed their fate. There was no turning back. He gathered his followers, announcing that the outside world would now come for them to torture their children. The only escape, he declared, was a revolutionary act. Cyanide-laced grape-flavored drink was prepared in large vats. Parents were forced to administer the poison to their children first, often under duress from armed guards. The screams, the pleas, the cries of agony filled the humid jungle air. One by one, they drank. Over 900 people, including more than 300 children, lay dead. Jim Jones himself was found with a gunshot wound to the head, though whether self-inflicted or ordered by him remains debated. The Jonestown massacre stands as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power, the fragility of faith, and the devastating consequences when charisma twists into absolute control. It was a tragedy born of delusion and absolute loyalty. The legacy of Jonestown echoes through history, a chilling testament to how a promise of paradise can become the pathway to hell. It forces us to question, to scrutinize, and to remember the cost of blind devotion. Explore the disturbing psychology of other notorious cult leaders in our next deep dive.